The role that the writing plays outside of my profession and in my personal life is huge. I'll give you an example. This summer, I started my doctoral program. I spent most of the summer in New York City, and I was away from my family. So each night I'd sit down and I'd write a journal entry for my wife to read about what was going on for that day. And doing that helped me to really understand the content that I was studying in my courses. And it also helped my wife be connected with me while I was going through that experience in New York City. I love family history, and I'm trying to compile as much information about my family and put it in writing. My grandparents didn't read or write, so most of our family's history is oral. So stories that have been in our family for a lot of years, I'm trying to get them in paper so that my kids can have access to them when my grandparents pass on.
You can imagine if you write this much, it's very hard to write in your journal. So I do manage to have some cryptic things, and the goal before I'm out of here is ultimately to write my life story. The first book I wrote was called Illustrious Forebears, and it traced my family in some cases back to the 12th century, where I put certificates, and I wanted all of my ancestors crossed the plains, and I wanted my children to know of their sacrifice and what would be our response to that. So that was actually my first book, and I would think once I retire that now there's internet, there were only typewriters when I started. So I would imagine that I could improve on that. I could improve on doing more of a biographical thing on myself, maybe my family.
Any active LDS person has a certain amount of time they're going to spend in front of people. And so I do occasionally write a talk out for church. I also teach, and so I'll make outlines for myself of classes that I'm going to do. I don't write a lot of correspondence. Occasionally a pithy email is about as much as I get out. My children all have blogs, and they're really pushing me to get my own blog going, and I really have resisted that because it's basically having to sit down and write twice a week or something, and I just resist writing whenever I can.
I tend to have a lot of opportunities for service with my writing. Like if somebody needs something done at church, I can help them. If one of the kids in my Young Women's needs a paper edited, they'll come to me and I can help them with that, or I can help them write their stories that they need for school. One of the biggest things I've done is my grandpa writes a column for the Standard Examiner up in Ogden. He's a very good writer, but he doesn't think he is. And so he always sends all his pieces to me, and I'll edit them for him before he sends them to the newspaper. And so I found that I can always help my family or other people with my writing.
I think personally, as far as that goes, sometimes we can't always talk on the phone to people that we want to keep in touch with. And so writing is very important. And sometimes writing is a little bit more personal and a little bit more lasting when you can write a card or write a letter to someone just saying how much you appreciate them or just asking how they're doing. I think it's a lost art, and I think that is something that every individual should make an effort to keep that in some small part in their lives. One thing that I do try to do is I keep all kinds of pictures or different advertisements for events that I've been involved in, and then I try to write just a little piece of something about that event because I figure it's better to do that than to not at all. So
I probably spend as much time trying to write a note of condolence to the family of a good friend that passes away in Texas, say, as I do any professional writing I do. Not because it has to be just right, but because I want it to be direct. I want the words to speak well. I want it to be simple and not pompous. And I take some time to tweak those things. So from something that seems to be as little as that to whether it's writing in my journal or trying to communicate something in a letter to my children. I'd like to, I don't think I'm really pedantic about it, but I want to be, I want to make the letter something that's a joy to read and not just words on a page.
I do a lot of writing for the web, sort of paraprofessional, like with this native plant horticulture hobby slash, you know, busman's holiday kind of a hobby. I do a lot of writing for the internet, so it doesn't ever actually get printed, but it gets read a lot. I'm heavily involved with a couple of organizations where they look to me to provide this material, because I'm the quote expert on this stuff, right? And I can write fast and get it done. The main one I'm involved with right now is a website called utahschoice.org, which is about promoting native plants for landscape use. And I was one of the founders of this thing, and I'm sort of the chief cook and bottle washer as far as the website. So mainly it's things that I've been involved in getting started. This is my main obsession. You know, you can't have too many obsessions in life. I do still write letters. Remember those? Yes. You use a pen, you write on paper. Not too often, but I always have enjoyed mail correspondence, so I still have a few people and they keep my letters. They like, you know, they're considered not throwaway things, so that's kind of flattering.
Writing is something that touches all aspects of my life, mostly, however, professionally. But in my non-professional life, which would be in the family or things I do in the church, I do a significant amount of writing, emails a lot of times that are intended to communicate in an efficient way, hopefully, a lot of information to other people in the particular assignments that I have. Within my family, I wouldn't say there's a great amount of writing that is influential to my family, but maybe at some point they might read things that I've written that they might be appreciative of.